my role with Yelp started in 2008. I came on board as a community manager and marketing director for our market up in Boston. And one of the first things that I did when I got the job was I reached out to a local PR firm and I asked to meet with them for coffee just to talk about working with some of their clients. And they were really open to it. So we sat down and we talked about all the clients they work with all around Boston. And they said, hey, we actually just got this new client on board. And I was like, oh, tell me all about it. And they were like, it's the Rattlesnake. And if you're not familiar, the Rattlesnake is it's like a bar, Southwest kind of eatery on Boylston Street in Boston. Really popular, really long-standing business. And as soon as they said that, this bell went off in my head. I said, oh no, I just wrote a really terrible review about them. And I said that to the women that I was meeting with, and they said, yes, we know. The chef has it hanging on his wall. And I flushed, got very embarrassed. And they were like, no, this is a good thing because the chef just came on board. He's brand new. He used to be the chef for a couple, he was a private chef and he worked for the Four Seasons. So they brought him on board at the Rattlesnake to kind of turn around exactly what it is you're talking about in your review, which was, this place is great. It's got a great roof deck. The beer selection is awesome. The food is absolutely awful. So they brought in this new chef to change their culinary program around. So we started doing a lot of work with him. We've brought people from the Yelp community in to do tastings. We had a huge event there where we brought about 200 people in for a brunch. He claimed his business listing on Yelp, which I'll talk more about later on. And he just got really involved with making sure to take the time every day to read through some of his Yelp reviews and figure out what it is, the problems that he needed to address and what he needed to fix to really turn the business around in the eye of the consumer. And one of the pretty hard and fast evidences of his work and our work with him is if you look at any business listing on Yelp, there'll be 3 keywords that are picked out that are said most often in a review. So for an Italian restaurant, it might be gnocchi, or for a hair salon, it might be a certain stylist's name. For the Rattlesnake now, this business listing, one of the most talked about search terms that people have written about over the past year and a half is Chef Brian Poe. And that's the chef that they brought on to change everything around. So, getting involved and really taking the time to look through what your consumers are saying does have an impact. It has a noticeable impact, and that's an automatic linkage to, your ROI and the efforts that you're putting forth in tools like Yelp and different social media outlets. I think when Yelp first came out, a lot of people were under the impression that Yelp was for college kids or for this super young, uneducated demographic. We find the opposite is true, because if you have money to spend and you're going onto Yelp to talk about what you're doing with your money, you actually have to have some sort of viable income. And most of our constituents, as you can see here, do. So 68% and above of everyone on Yelp has a bachelor's degree or higher. 62% of our population makes 60 grand or more a year. And then I would say, half and half is half male, half female. And then 25 to 40 is our core age demographic.
Taking your business and applying it to our publishing content itself, we have a lot of great content, sometimes something that's very exciting as well. But getting people to go back and comment on things and have a discussion becomes a challenge. And I also noticed that you have 32 million unique visitors, but your reviews only went up by 1 million. And if you actually peel down that 32 million,
right,
how many of those 32 million unique visitors actually add content on your website? I'm sure that's probably about 1% of it, or probably less than 5% for sure.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that challenge? If you could give us some insights on that, that'd be helpful.
Sure, yeah. So part of my job, and it's very appropriate, this slide came up. Part of my job, in addition to business and marketing side, as I'm a community manager, and a couple years ago, if you would ask someone what a community manager was, nobody would have known, and now suddenly every company out there that has even somewhat of an arm in social media is hiring and building a community management program. So we think that what drives content creation on Yelp is the community management aspect, building a community. So you can have the coolest website with the best features, but if you don't have a community that's driving the interest of your website, then it's going to be really hard to get people to stay interested. So a lot of our programs, and this is some pictorial examples of fun things that we do around the world at Yelp, a lot of it is offline. So half of our work is keeping the content online fresh, making sure that it's abiding by our guidelines, making sure that the site is running smoothly, which most users, when they pop onto site, most of that 38 million is having just that user experience of going onto search, looking for something, reading through the reviews, maybe bookmarking something, who knows, very, very looker oriented, looking inward. And the other half is that you have someone like me in every community that we're in, 40 plus worldwide, who's throwing events for the people who are on the website, who's out in the business community talking to businesses, creating relationships, getting together with Yelpers who are part of our community offline, even for simple things, just to go have a drink or to do a bar crawl or, you know, try this new cupcake place or whatever the case may be. It's really that offline presence that drives people coming back to Yelp and creating the content. One thing that was really important to Yelp from the beginning is creating content that our consumers and anybody that comes to Yelp can trust. So you must wonder how we do that, because policing, 14 million reviews worldwide in different languages can be a little tricky. So one thing that we implemented early on was a review filter, and this is something that has been debated and talked about in the business community and in the online community. We're pretty much the only review site that has a filter like this that is really concentrated in protecting the content that comes into our site. So in a nutshell, we have a review filter that's designed very much like your email algorithm. So if you have Gmail especially, you have an algorithm that's in your mail program that keeps spam out of your inbox. So this basically works by looking at who you've communicated with and where it's coming from, and it filters out all the stuff that it doesn't trust. So Yelp has a very similar algorithm where it filters out content that it deems untrustworthy. So when you sometimes get spam into your inbox and you're like, how the heck did this get here? It's like, that's how algorithms work. They're not perfect. So sometimes spam will creep into your inbox. Sometimes mail that you need to get, like I emailed Lauren this morning, perfect example, and it ended up in her junk folder, probably because I hadn't emailed her from my cell phone before, so it maybe saw it as spam and it put it into her spam folder. It happens all the time. Same thing with our review filter. People will say, oh, well, I know this person and I know they're a legitimate customer and they went on and wrote this review. How come it got filtered out? Doesn't always work exactly the way it's supposed to work, and that's something our engineers work on every single day, ways to improve the filter so that the right content is making it onto the site, the wrong content isn't, and all the content that you're consuming when you come onto Yelp is real content written by real people. In a nutshell, we want the content to be useful and we want it to be real, and this is the only way that we can figure out how to automatically take content that's coming in, fish out all the suspicious nonsense, and only give consumers and users of the site content that's written by a real human being that actually went to that business, that spent money there, that invests more time than just one review on our site.